tutto allagato, non ci possiamo muovere, è tutto allagato.
The temperature dropped by almost 10 degrees in less than an hour, said Dr. Luana Ferri, a climatologist and Center University in Rome. Social media quickly filmed the dramatic image. River for ice falling down, Villa di Corso lighting illumination, Santa Piera Basilica, and tourists running for cover in a handstone the size of a marble ball splattered at the cobblestones. Thunder rumbled between the ancient walls, creating the entire soundtrack of the city landmark. Public transport came to the up with the parts of the metro and tram network suspended due to flooded floods and Flumico, Kandla airports were temporarily delayed as a crew cleared ice from the runways. Local authority brought in the clear crews through the night, while working around the clock to restore safety, said Major Roberto Gianni, urged residents to stay indoors and avoid necessary travel. Although no casualties were reported, at least 6 people suffered minor injury from the fallen debris and hailstones. Insurance companies estimated that the damage in millions of euros, especially to vehicles and businesses with the open space. Meteorologists say the storm dumped over the 8 mm of rain in just 1 hour, nearly half of rain average monthly rainfall. Experts link the event of growing instability of the Mediterranean climate. Falling the water, sea temperatures, ice sheets, storms are becoming more frequent and more destructive, said Dr. Erin Tupari, a climatologist of the University of Bologna. Video shared online showed massive hailstorm pelting the streets while the residents sheltered the cafes and metro station. In the suburbs, strong winds on the roof from buildings and left thousands without electricity. Major Roberto Giletti was called to the emergency assessment, warning that the Rome outdated drainage system can no longer handle such tropical-style weather patterns. The storm here reignite debates about the Italy preparedness for the climate extremes. As one resident wrote on social media, Rome is drawing not from the history but from the neglect.
Non ci credo, oddio, qua, la moto, la macchina.
Late Monday evening, a severe hailstorm hit Rome, surprised residents and covered the ancient streets and the capital with a layer of ice. The sudden storm turned into eternal city, wide, disrupting traffic, damaged cars and causing flash flooding in several areas. Within the minutes, the sky darkened in the sound of hailstorm sound the size of a golf ball, echoing across rooftops, the courtyard. Video posted on social media showed streams of water following down the Spanish steps and vacations marble courtyard glistening under the layer of ice. It was like an apocalypse, said Elena Rossi, owner a shop near Pisa Venezia. The hail was so heavy it broke part of our glass canopy. People were running to cover. Emergency services were quickly overwhelmed, responded to more than 400 calls across the city about flooding, fallen trees and damaged cars. Several metro stations were temporarily closed due to water ingress and buses were forced to reroute through the less affected areas. The storm also affected key landmark. Parts of Trastevere and Ostia were left without power in several hours, while lighting lit up the sky above the Colosseum and St. Peter Basilica, creating dramatic and frightening scenes. Meteorologists explained that the Mediterranean cyclone, sometimes called the Medicaid, formed south of the island, drawing warm, most air from the sea. This is great violent connective storm, the tropical link. Rainfall exceeded 150 mm in just 6 hours. Experts warn that such phenomena are becoming more frequent as sea temperature rise. Sicily Governor Rinaldi said that called the flooded sacrament of our fragility in the face of extreme weather. He announced that emergency funds are affected multiple to promise to accelerate drainage infrastructure improvement. The aftermath paints a grim picture. Destroyed cars collapsed, relating walls in entire neighborhoods collided in the mood. Local fishermen in the parts of Mazzara de Valle reported dozens of vastly damaged surgeon diets. As cleanup crews walked tirelessly to move across Sicily is one of the explore mixing their disbelief. "We are used to rain," said farmer Salvatore Russo from the ENA. "But this is sometimes ills entire." With the most storms forecast in the coming days, Italy burst to further disruption. As some margins to how climate change is reshaping life to the most sun-drenched regions. Rome, Italy. In a ray of terrifying weather event, the Italian capital was struck by a sudden hailstorm that transformed it in the city golden autumn in the scene in the destruction. The streets around the Colosseum, Piazza Navona, and Vegetation were covered in a white blanket of torrent of water, ice flooding Rome in a matter of minutes. The hailstorms come almost without warning. First there was the light rain, and then bang, everything turned white. Recalled Luca Marina, a taxi driver who was stuck near Termini station. Hailstones the size cone there, hidden by the white breed, so hard that I thought it would crack. The storm lasted just under 14 minutes, but its effect was severe. Trees were uprooted, dozens of cars were damaged, and several areas including San Giovanni and Trastevere experienced power outage. Emergency service reported for the 300 calls per hour due to flooding, standing driver and collapsing avenue. Meteorologists described the event of atmospheric bomb. Formed that warm Mediterranean air cooled with a cold Arctic and descended over the central Italy. Ferry service on Naples and Cagliari were suspended due to rough sea. The Sicily team network was shut down after electrical damage and overheat lines. Meteorologists said the storm was fueled by the powerful Mediterranean low-pressure system, parts of the growing pattern of Mediterranean, like a storm that resembled tropical cyclones. Temperatures dropped sharply following this storm and hail the size of walnuts damaged vehicles and citrus orange in the surrounding countryside. Regional Governor Renato Scini called the event wake all of the Sicily, emphasizing the urgent need to improve drainage and flood difference. We can no longer trend trees to rare incidents. We said they are becoming by new normal. Video circulated online showing people wading through the waist-deep water in Palermo Historic Center, while rescue used inflatable boats to reach stranded residents near the pizza. Electricity outage and thousands without electricity overnight. The schools were ordered closed and crew cleared debris and restored infrastructure. Climate experts warn that Sicily is one of the dense urban layout and against infrastructure is increasingly exposed to extreme weather linked to global warming.
Chiudi.
powerful hailstorm swept across Rome on a Monday evening, transforming in the eternal city into surreal winter scene in the middle of autumn. The violent burst of the weather struck without warning, pelting the capital with the ice stones the size of a marble 8 in some era's golf ball. Within the minutes, streets, pieces, and parked cars were buried under the thick layer of ice, forcing traffic and stand still and overwhelming the city drainage systems. It was like a blizzard, said local resident Marco Rinaldi, who was driving near Pisa Veneto where the storm hit. The visibility dropped to zero. People were hooking to pulling over, afraid the windshield would shatter. Emergency service received hundreds of calls across Rome and nearby towns. Firefighters rushed to clear blocked roads, flooded underpasses, and fallen trees branches. Public transport was temporarily suspended in several districts, where video shared online showed buses tragically through the rivers and a hail of water flowing through the metro entries. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed her condolences and promised immediate government support. "We will not leave Sicily alone with this tragedy." The flood also caused significant economic damage. Vineyards, citrus grove, and olive farms are blackboard on Sicily economy, where flooded and agriculture groups warn of millions in losers. Businesses in the historic center of Palermo may be closed for the weeks and a half a month. The Italian Meteorological Service has linked in disaster to the Mediterranean and Mediterranean cyclones similar to the Trapon storm. Since when the climate change is exacerbating such phenomena as a warning sea contributing to heavier rains and a violent storm. Residents clearing debris are in shock. Standing outside the damaged barrier, Rosa County said, "Sicily is used to the hardship, but this is something else. We cannot fight this on our own." Sicily, normally bridge collapsed looks at the dew blow from the narrow fields and wild green groups are now fast asleep through the molten water. Environmental warning in addition to human casualties, entire ecosystem have been temporarily destroyed. In the city of Noto, residents placed candles and steps of historic cathedral in memory of the victims. Local priests helped open air masses in a flooded courtyard, calling the stretch and the unity. One of the Syrians, Lucia Manso, said, "We lost our beginnings, but not each other. The most important things." Meanwhile, the Italian army remained the standby with more than 400 soldiers destroyed across the isolated to clear debris, reinforce river banks to deliver aid to remove vigilantes. The EU has also experienced its support. A team from the US Civil Protection Mechanism has been sent to coordinate with the Italian authority, increasing the livelihood of international funding to support long-term recovery. Scientists emphasize this is only a high breach of may become normal. Southern Europe is especially by the Mediterranean basin is becoming increasingly vulnerable to extreme weather events and the climate change accelerators. Meteorologists from Italy's Civil Protection Agency described the storm as one of the strongest in recent years. The combination of warm, moist air from the Mediterranean and a cold front from the north caused extensive instability, explained meteorologist Marco Rinaldi. Such supercell systems are becoming more frequent due to climate change. Authority urged residents to stay indoors in avoid flood streets, warning to even more severe weather expected in a kind of weekend. Cleanup efforts are underway, with the city walker clearing debris and hail from clogged storm drains. Major Roberto Gilardi called the situation as a wake-up call for climate change preparedness. Rome is not used to such violent weather, he said. We must adapt to infrastructure and protect cities to preserve and heritage. Tourist areas included termina were temporarily evacuated, and the boats of the harbor were secured against weather winds and waves. Meteorologists explained that the storm was uploaded by the Mediterranean low-pressure system, cooling with a humid warm air from Africa. This combination produced extremely violent storm in short time, said Dr. Antonio Latour, a weather expert in Sicily. Experts alike the becoming more frequent due to climate change. Agriculture losses are expected to be significant, with the olive groves, vineyard and citrus orange damaged by the hail flooding. Local farmers have already called for the emergency relief and the offsite and economic impact. Authority urged residents to remain indoors, avoid flooded roads and follow emergency advisory. Mayor Lever Orlando stressed by the importance of immediate cleanup efforts of reinforced to need the better flood prevention infrastructure across Italy. As the storm subsided, Sicilian surveyed for the damage, cleared debris and braced for the next birth and unpredictable weather, a stark reminder of the island's vulnerability to extreme Mediterranean storms.
Grandina tutta! Nebbia d'acqua, non si capisce niente!
Rome, Italy. A sudden and violent hailstorm hit the heat of the Rome on a Wednesday afternoon, catched residents and tourists off guard. When less than an hour hailstorm the size of golf ball pelted the city, breaking windows, dented cars and flooded streets across the central districts, including Trastevere, Prati and Monti. The noise was different. It sounded like a war zone, said Luca Bianchi, a local shop owner. Shoppers ran for cover and hail-smashed saffrons, where quickly flooded the streets and cars were stranded in Wednesday public boulders. Emergency service reported over the 215 calls for assistance, preliminary for damaged vehicles and flooded basements. Several trees were uprooted by strong winds accompanied the storm, blanket major roads and disrupting public transportation. Rome Metro Line A temporarily halted in affected areas due to water intrusion in tunnel. Meteorologists explained that storm was followed by a clash of warm, humid Mediterranean air with a cold front from the north, producing unusually large hailstones and intense winds. A violent storm swept through the Rome, Italy, unleashed torrential rain, thunder and gale force winds and left parts of the capital flooded and paralyzed. Within a minute, narrow cobblestone streets turned into raging rivers, cars were submerged and public transport ground to the hail. It was terrified. The sky turned completely black, said Francesco Bianchi, a resident near the Vatican. The wind howled like a jet engine, and lightning struck so close it shook the windows. The storm struck during the rush hour, catching thousands of communities off guard. Firefighters received over 400 emergency calls for flooded homes. Down at trees and stranded motorists. It is a Trastevere and Ostia district. Strong winds tore off roof, titles and trooped scooters, while several metro stations were forced to close due to the rising water levels. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most intense in recent years. Flooded a sharp crash between the humid African air and the cold Atlantic currents of the central Italy. Rome has been struck by an unprecedented and violent hailstorm that transformed the Eternal City into surreal vintage scene, shocking residents and disrupted daily life. Within a minute, large hailstorm, sounds the size of walnuts, battered the capital, damaged cars, broke windows, and blanketed Athens streets in white. The storm hit late in the afternoon, following days in unusual warm weather. Meteorologists from Italy's Civil Protection Department described the event as sudden and extreme, with intense rainfall and temperature drops of nearly 10 Celsius under an hour. It was one of the most intense connective storms we've seen over Rome in a year, said meteorologist Alicia Romano. Social media quickly filled with dramatic footage showing torrents and ice and water cascading down the city capable alley, with the Trastevere and Prato districts drains overloaded, turning roads into river and slash. It was terrified, said local resident Marco de Luca, and was hit at the heart but felt like a window were going to explode.